This is part 4 of Task Force Butler's What is Fascism guide. In this educational series, we're helping people understand what fascism is, what it looks like, so that they can learn how to fight it. And in this episode, we're discussing the fascist version of loyalty. In a fascist party, the leader cannot fail. He can only be failed. That's a famous quote from fascists in the last century. A fascist leader requires absolute loyalty and will readily discard long-standing allies the moment that they outlive their usefulness. The reliance on cronyism, the assembly of street gangs who deliver politically expedient violence on command, and rigid thought policing are the tools the fascist leader uses to surround himself with loyal allies. Albert Speer was a paragon of cronyism in a fascist context. Speer was Mustache Man's chief architect, who had been tasked with multiple Yahtzee party projects. In 1942, Mustache Man made Speer the Minister of Armaments and War Production, placing the entire Yahtzee war effort into the hands of a man with no experience with the military, weapons, or manufacturing. Mustache Man knew Speer was utterly incapable of competently fulfilling his duties, but his consistent loyalty kept him in the role, for which his post-war reward was 20 years in prison. Fascist leaders rely on cronyism because they can fill powerful positions with loyal allies and supporters. These enablers, in the eyes of a fascist leader, will not betray or attempt to usurp them. Their qualifications for the job and their performance are not as important as their undying loyalty to the fascist leader. Gathering and deployment of fascist street gangs is another way to secure enforced loyalty. These fascist paramilitary forces largely act as unregulated thugs that are used to intimidate and attack political rivals, bully others into accepting their ideology, and act as the militant wing of the party. The most infamous example of this is the SA, also known as the Yahtzee brown shirts. They provided protection for Yahtzee events, disrupted meetings of opposing parties, fought against rival political groups such as communists, and intimidated trade unionists, Jews, and Romani people. At the height of their influence, there were over 350,000 Italian blackshirts, the fascist paramilitary force that swore their loyalty to Benito Mussolini and, like the SA, used violence against their political opponents. The blackshirts were present for the March on Rome in Mussolini's coup d'etat, which resulted in his ascension to power in October 1922. Fascist leaders rely on violence and the militarization of politics. These tactics are bound to produce martyrs for the cause, and these individuals are commemorated for embodying the ultimate expression of loyalty. Political violence and martyrdom are embraced by fascist leaders. The Yahtzees revered their 16 so-called martyrs that died in 1923's failed coup d'etat, the Beer Hall Push. Shortly after he came to power, Hitler ordered the construction of the Honor Temple to honor and house the remains of the 16 martyrs for Yahtzeeism. The blood-soaked Yahtzee flag from the Beer Hall Push, called the Blood Flag, was one of the most revered objects in Yahtzee Germany, and it was used to concentrate other Yahtzee flags when touched by it. The men who died in the Beer Hall Push became heroes to the cause of National Socialism, and the symbolism of their deaths was used multiple times by Mustache Man's propaganda. Absolute loyalty and politically motivated violence are a lethal combination. In the summer of 1934, the Yahtzee Party purged Ernst Röhm and other leaders of the SA, the Brown Shirts, during the Night of the Long Knives. The SA had been instrumental in the Yahtzees' rise to power, acting as Mustache Man's original paramilitary force as they were deployed in violent street actions against communists and other political rivals. The fear was that the 3 million strong SA thugs would be more loyal to Rome than to the Yahtzee Party, or challenge the German military. During the Night of the Long Knives, it is estimated that up to 1,000 individuals, including Rome, the SA leadership, and political rivals like former Chancellor Kurt von Schleicher, were arrested or killed in a move to solidify Mustache Man's power. A fascist leader will also rely on youth indoctrination in order to create the next generation of soldiers and mothers for the state. Gender roles and hierarchies will be strictly abided by and reinforced at a young age. Mustache Man Youth and the League of German Girls were the crucibles that were used to forge a generation of pliable, loyal German citizens. Tween and teen boys were indoctrinated in National Socialist ideology, including the mythological hierarchy of Aryans over non-Aryans. And they took part in military training, weapons familiarization, and basic fighting tactics, while the girls were trained in their prescribed role as mothers, wives, and homemakers. Fascist leaders rely on traditionalism to encourage men into military service by embracing a masculine gender identity. And for women, fascist leaders encourage them to bear as many children as possible for the nation and its interests. Anyone who challenges that traditional gender norm, like gay and lesbian people, for example, and the hierarchy of the state, would be persecuted by both fascist street gangs and the state. The fascist leader will seek to create a society in which the youth are taught the ideologies of the state, that violence and martyrdom of loyal foot soldiers are celebrated, and the ranks of important positions are filled with cronies incapable or uninterested in usurping the power of the leader. So that concludes our 4th episode of Task Force Butler's What is Fascism Guide. Please be sure to like and comment on this video if you want to encourage more people to see it. Share it on TikTok, on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're seeing it. And to support us, please subscribe everywhere that you can. There's going to be at least one more episode left in this series, and we look forward to continuing to engage with you folks. So thank you.